So my opponent's main proposition is the following. No national sports team in the United States should be so insensitively named, and we as citizens of this great nation should not tolerate or turn our heads from this kind of demeaning behavior. Native American mascots should be banned in our country. Now, the secondary claims my opponent used as the first point is that after the genocide of the Native American people during the conquest of the Americas, we are now allowing national sports teams to disrespect and shame the Native American culture because we are not doing anything to stop this racism. The evidence the advocate states is how because of their nationality, 15 million Native Americans were murdered. I cannot contradict this in any way. This is just unjust and cruel. She also quoted Barbara Munson, who is the chairperson of the Oneida, Wisconsin Indian Education Association. Now, I will focus on her second point, which is that it is racist. She states that if it were any other race, it would be completely outrageous. She says, imagine if there existed a team called Kansas City Negroes, the Atlanta Chinks, or the Washington Beaners. It would be completely unacceptable and never tolerated. The Native Americans, what makes the Native Americans any different? I cannot deny that Redskins in a mascot just does not seem honorable at all. However, these names and mascots are not trying to come off as racist, unless you decide to make a value judgment on it. The mascots are trying to motivate the crowd and show spirit and pride. The mascots are not trying to degrade anyone. The following information was gathered from the Times News website. According to Chief Lee Best of the Appalachian Confederate Tribes, an organization of more than 300 American Indian descendants throughout the region. I personally think it's an honor to be chosen as a mascot. He also says, when I was in high school, I was a proud warrior. The warrior was our mascot. Best said, I played football and ran track and personally loved the team mascot. I remember being in football games with that warrior spirit, and here we are as the warriors. It actually got my juices flowing, so to speak. He also says how, if the Indian community hates these names, the Indian community needs to explain why. I would like the general public to know why Redskin is a detrimental term. But as far as the Warriors, Braves, and Indians, that to me is a source of pride. Furthermore, some of the evidence the advocate used from the Bleacher Report was from the Bleacher Report. But the Bleacher Report also states how it is certainly hard to find names like Braves or Chiefs offensive. Neither is an outwardly or historically negative term. Instead, they are more reminiscent of pride and leadership and courage. According to a poll conducted by Sports Illustrated in 2002, the majority of American Indians agree with Best. The poll found 81% of American Indian respondents do not think high school and college teams should stop using Indian nicknames. As for professional athletics, 83% of the Native American respondents said teams should not stop using Indian nicknames, mascots, characters, and symbols. Now, overall, this policy the advocate is arguing focuses more on what is moral and immoral, rather than if it causes any harm or produces any result from it. In conclusion, Native American mascots are not coming off as racist. Instead, they are just trying to empower the teams by making them look strong and intimidating to the opposing teams.
What was the time?
3:40.
3:40? Okay, thank you. All right, you ID the advocate's claim. The advocate's claim is actually a policy claim that's largely supported by value arguments, so you're going to get a little bit of leeway in the kinds of responses that you get that you give. On the first point, you don't really even try and dismiss that. You, in essence, suggest that this maybe is historically accurate, but you're going to dismiss the premise that the names are, in fact, derogatory or designed to diminish. And you never really talk about the examples that the advocate uses. I mean, you do mention Redskins, and you kind of accept the notion that that is a pejorative term. But was that the only example that the advocate used, and why is it not the most important example? For instance, if it is the only team that isn't so named, then I think it's a pretty narrow generalization or a general issue to talk about. If, on the other hand, Redskins is a typical nickname for high school or college teams, then maybe there's something a little bit more involved here. And that was one of those things that I think maybe could have been more direct about the factual issues. Then you basically get down to this premise about whether or not it is negative in some way, and you suggest that it is largely accepted by Native Americans, and you've got some studies that make reference to the large percentages who see it as being appropriate. They have admiration for the term warrior and brave. They see it as being leadership-based and a demonstration of courage, and I thought that you did a nice job presenting those arguments. Those statistics, by the way, are all examples of value arguments, and since you're making an argument that's about a value argument, that's why I'm giving you some like I said, some leeway on that particular point. I thought that you came up with a pretty good argument on those kinds of things. Of course, the advocate gave comparative terms and suggested the most extreme examples. Would those be the most typical examples? Just like Redskins might be the most extreme example when it comes to the Indian names. I don't know what the names would be for the all the different groups. Maybe there are names within those communities or groups that are not seen as pejorative. The Zulus, the Ubangis, I don't know, something like that. And I'm not sure that they would automatically be assumed to be pejorative the same way that Redskins would be. And then I think there are probably comparative examples that you could use. 2 weeks ago we kicked the asses of the Fighting Irish, and nobody's squawking about that one. So there are terms that are used that are ethnic in nature that may not in fact be seen as being negative, and then that gives a little bit more credence to your argument that the perception of the name is really dependent on the people who are listening to it at the time. The bigger argument is what harm is caused by it, and that should be the factual issue, that is there any harm caused by it, and I think that you ask a legitimate question. I'm not sure that the advocate gave much of an argument on that point. All right, thank you.